I have been wanting to do this for a while now, and some of you that have been following the channel probably know what it is. And yes, I have moved some stuff around in the woodyard. I'll show you in a little bit, and like I mentioned, this is something that if you've been following along, you know that I generally tend to, if something gets put in one spot, after a while, I probably will end up moving it to another spot just to see how it works out and how everything flows together with the process and the production of, in this case, the mini firewood. Now, before I show you what I did, and I've been working at this yesterday, a little bit the day before. I just finished up a little while ago. I did one little test run, and I think this is gonna be the cat's meow when it comes to my mini firewood production. But before I do that, I wanna show you guys something, and I don't know if maybe I'm the only one that sometimes thinks like this. I've been digging into this hillside here just to get some dirt and some of this sand and clay that Boss Man has been using for his trails. But I was thinking, you know, this dirt down here, it's probably, I don't know, 5-6 feet down and about 15 feet into the hillside. But this dirt, those layers of sand and clay and some more sand right here, that right there is probably the first time that anyone has ever laid eyes on that dirt. You and me right now, together, we are the first people to look at this dirt, to ever see it. I just think sometimes stuff like that is kind of crazy. I mean, it's cool to see, you know, the layers of different, you know, sediments, the sand, the clay, the stuff that's, you know, a little bigger layer than a little smaller layer. But yeah, that's cool, but then it's also cool to kind of think that, yeah, first time human eyes have probably ever saw that dirt right there. So yes, probably something a little geeky, but I just think sometimes stuff like that is kind of cool. So let me show you now what I have done in the woodyard here. It was something, like I mentioned, I've been wanting to do this for a while just because, I mean, things were working fine, but there was a few things I wanted to tweak with the process of mini firewood that in the setup that I was in, I needed to make a few changes in order to make those tweaks. So there is the new setup. What I did was I moved that little shelter that was over against the bank of the hill. I moved that over right in line with the carport, kind of changed the position of the kinlet, and then put the micro kiln now on the end of the line. And it fits over here nice. I mean, I got it tight right up against the carport. This center post right here kind of lines right up with it. So that works out good. Before this, so I had this little shelter. This was like one of the main structures I had to start with. I had that before I had the carport. So I had that over here on this hillside, and I had it down on some treated 2x12 planks, and then those planks were sitting on these pavers. And so with those pavers down, it kind of gave it a little elevated height. Oh, look at that. Todd's outside again was here at one point. But up against this hillside, it worked out good when that was the only structure I had. And then after getting the carport, I was like, you know, it'd be nice to kind of have everything kind of together and set up to where I could, before I had the kinlet more down on the end, and so I had a big long mesh, metal mesh like table at the end of it, and it worked fine. But now what I can do, so for instance, earlier I brought over that little half pallet full of some rounds of oak. I've got the timber ox parked here on the end so I can bust the rounds down into chunks, and then those chunks I can stage right here, and then as I'm running the kindling I can just take those, load them in right here and down the line. And then at the other end of the kindlet, so everything runs through here, comes out the chute. There's a little drop on the chute here, and I was always having trouble with, there's the old wire mesh table that I was using, and it wasn't quite wide enough, so stuff would spill over the edges if I pushed it out and it kind of piled up too high. Now this can spill out. It won't spill backwards and fall off the table there. So I can just kind of keep pushing this stuff out, and then I have a nice large working area here that is right about at waist height. That one, when I had it below the kindlet, when the kindlet was on the other end, that table was kind of low, and I was always kind of like bending over to be able to sort through the wood, the mini firewood here, the small wood. It's kind of always down a little too low. This right here is the perfect height. Waist height, I can sort through this stuff. When I do pull out things like I don't want, like this kind of rotten piece here, I have totes set up on the ground there and over here. So if I'm sorting on the end, I can toss it on that side or that side. And then if I'm going right from the kindlet to the kiln, I have the baskets right here that I can pull out, and then from here, just toss them right into the basket. As I separate out, you know, so like this thing right here, I'd pull that off, separate that out. So everything I'm putting into the kiln is like finished product quality. I don't want to be taking up space with stuff that I don't want to heat treat. So this works out much better as far as sorting and cleaning, and then dealing with the scraps. I can just drop it right into a tote. Before, what I had, I would just push it off into a big pile kind of on the floor. So this working out is going to work out great. And then once if I have the kiln filled up, or if I want to run and not use the kiln, what I can do is right off the end of this table, I can put a bag, put the top of the bag right here, and I can just drop everything right into the bag, and then the bag I can take from here and go either to that greenhouse or over to that greenhouse. The tractor fits over here nicely to hook up to the PTO. Before, I had the tractor on the end, so it was like kind of, if this was the end of the kindlet, the tractor would be like kind of down where that wedge is sticking up on the timber rocks. What this allows me to do now is I can come right over here and throttle down. I have easy access to the tractor, throttle it down, throttle it up. Everything is, like I said, just a nice flow, a nice working flow. Everything is accessible, the tractor, the kindlet, the chunks. The other thing is, if I have, I will use the log stand to cut little rounds and chunks, and I usually put them in like this wooden bin right there, and I am able to bring that in with the tractor and set it there if I needed to. So it just gives me overall much better access to the product going in and the product coming out. And then, like I said, whether or not I'm going into the kiln, or I can set a bag right here. This is high enough so that one of those barrel bags, those bags right over there, they will sit right here. I can put the top underneath the table and then just toss the splits right into the bag. I think it's going to work out much better. And that is always kind of my objective with trying new things, is to hopefully improve on the process and make things better. Sometimes I don't succeed. Sometimes I move things around, and then in another month or two, I start thinking of where I could move it to next to try something different. But for now, I think this setup's going to work nice. I'll try it out. I'm going to keep running the rest of that oak through, and we'll see how it goes. So just overall, it kind of simplifies parts of the process, makes it easier. Putting wood in, well, splitting it, if I need to split the chunks, I have a working area down there with the timber ox and that little table. I have nice, easy access to the controls of the tractor. And then coming out the other end of the kinlet, I think is just going to be much better. Now, I still have, being that I'm just, if I'm out here by myself, if I'm just me running it, I still have to where I can only run so long, and then the out table kind of gets filled up. So I do have to kind of shut down, start back up. But that's just, I'm not on any huge production quota right now. So if it takes me, an hour to get done what I want to do compared to a half hour with having two people out here, not too concerned about that. My main thing was to just move this around, get that shelter moved over, and I don't know, I think it went better than I thought it would. Number one, I wasn't sure how easy it was going to be to move that, so that worked out good, and I think this setup is going to work out great as well. So that'll do it. I got to run Boss Man now to a birthday party, another birthday party. So that's going to probably be my afternoon here in the Woodyard. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Stay safe, have fun, and be cool.